Hello, Holly Ludeman here, your host on this episode of Behind the Collective. In today's episode, it is part 3 of the KPCA series, proudly sponsored by Milne Feeds. And in this episode, I'm going to chat to Haydn Sale from Yougawalla Pastoral Company and to Helen Campion from Anna Plains Station. 2 leaders themselves, but 2 people that were part of the Head Stockpersons Leadership Forum recently ran by the KPCA. And they've also been out and about since that event occurred to see how important it was and hear from people on the ground about the key takeaways and the importance of this type of leadership training. Holly Ludeman here with Haydn Sale, General Manager of Yougawalla, millions of hectares and multiple properties. And we're going to have a chat today about the KPCA and they ran recently Head Stockpersons Leadership Forum workshop. You were a part of the panel at that event.
Yep.
And then you came along to the dinner,
Yep.
which is great. So while you may not need any introduction, I think it was incredible for those young people to hear about your career on that day and that panel of experts to see a young guy from Geelong and Victoria who made his way to the Kimberley.
Yep.
And now manages, I don't want to say an empire, but almost.
Yeah. No, I really enjoyed being part of the day, Holly, and I thought the other panel members were great too. It was pretty good experience for those kids to have such a wide variety of experienced managers and owners and people in the industry to be able to bounce ideas off and stuff. So yeah, it was really interesting and a couple of days, and I think a great a thing to do as an industry to help those sort of mid-level up and coming future leaders, give them a bit of leadership training and a bit of and look to invest in them, because they seem to have been overlooked a bit in the past, and that was probably why we came up with driven by Lux, the idea of doing the Head Stockpersons Forum. Yeah,
it was incredible, that panel. If you add all those years of experience that was sitting up there, I was trying to kind of work it out. It's probably over 100 years of experience sitting there and being quite frank and vulnerable about some of the challenges, some of the successes. And I think that created some great questions from these up-and-coming young leaders.
And I thought they were really engaged too. I was really impressed by how engaged they were. The questions, they were always a bit nervous to ask something in front of the crowd, but even that, we got some good questions from the floor. But then afterwards, at the dinner and milling around, they were really engaged and up and asking questions and right on board, and you just feel that enthusiasm coming through in them, which was fantastic.
Yes, you're right. I have said in a few of the other interviews, I was pretty energised by the group and being part of it. And as you mentioned, that gap in maybe training, and in Lux's interview, he said anyone can get blisters on their hands, but that investment in people skills and other skills that take you from bringer to manager.
Well, like you said, we've got north of 100 staff now. And as the business has grown over the years, we obviously become more and more reliant on people to make it grow. You start off as literally a mum and dad family show, and you're doing everything yourself. Sometimes I wish for the simplicity of those days. But the reality is, if you want to grow your business, this is like any business really, but particularly in agriculture where you live remotely, you've got to invest in your people and bring people along for the ride. And being able to manage those people is a really big challenge from a up-and-coming leadership space. Like there's lots of people in our industry that are very good with livestock, but not so good with people. And there's lots of people that are very good with people, but aren't very good with livestock. To find the both, people who are both very rare. So you find people have to either work on one area or the other.
Yeah.
And by definition, we get the people that are good at livestock because that's what they want to do. You've got to try and pick the people that can work on how they work with people, because if they can't do that, then they'll never make a leader. And what I think we identified, Lux started the discussion, and it was exactly right, was we do a lot of training for our inductees, everything from livestock handling to safety to health and just basically everything when they arrive from us is starting from a zero level. They might have some background or be from farms, and then it takes us a number of years to school them up into what we want. So we invest a lot in that. And then at the senior management level, we've got leadership going on, we've got forums they go to. But what we were missing was the head stockman middle role. Right? And if you think about where they come along, they have to take one of the biggest steps you have to take, which is from being amongst your mates and working amongst your mates to having to lead your mates. And that's a very difficult step to take. And in our business, out of the 100 people, some of the toughest positions to fill are that role. So not just wanting to do the right thing by those up and coming people, as an industry and as people that employ those people, we have to invest in them to make sure we've got more of them coming through. Because it's a real gap. We get heaps and heaps of people that just want to work, being ringers and come and work and then go away and do something else. And then we've got good demand for people that already have the skills that want to go into the higher senior management roles. But we really struggle for that head stockman type role, because you find they'll come and work and then they'll want to get dragged away to either a family farm or station, or they will go away and do some further education. Now, on the further education part, that's great. If you stay in contact and they come back, even better. But you've got to sow the seed that there's a future for them there and there's a pathway for them for their career. And I think starting now in this sort of engagement with the Head Stockman's Forum sows that seed in their mind that, hang on, there is a good future here for me, and hopefully they either stay with you or they go away and do something and come back.
And I think that came through the participants after or through the workshop, but thinking themselves as professionals, going from this mate to manager, or mate to head stockman. And I think yourself and Jane over the years have had obviously hundreds of thousands of people come through that you've had to not maybe select, or you've seen the ones that do succeed and have that maybe ability to work with livestock and people. And it would be interesting if you've got any stories, if there have been people that have not had any livestock experience that have come out and succeeded. Yeah,
absolutely. Like it's not weighted one way or the other, to be honest. If you've got someone that's very good with people, good leader and willing to learn, and they have an affinity for that, then that can go the other way as well. And quite often it's easier to get to go that way than it is from a livestock person that has no skills in that area, So it's not one way or the other for sure. But what we identified was that we weren't giving those people enough of the attention in the training space, and that has probably been a big oversight for a lot of years, because they're the people we need to stay in the industry and progress.
Identifying that gap, and I think the participants reiterated that in how they valued the course and the feedback. And you can have your motorbike training, your horse training, your safety inductions, but that induction on how to self-reflect, understand their own styles and their own personality types, understand communication skills. And there were some great examples of that throughout a couple of days, and some workshops and breakout sessions that created a lot of discussions and scenarios. And I think that's what was great for them, was to sit down and hear scenarios they could take back to the camp that they've done.
100%.
And I saw you sit down over dinner, and a lot of them had the confidence to come up and have a chat to you, which I think was another great outcome of the networking that came out of the couple of days. Did you have any stories that you remember, or key takeaways from any of the participants?
I got asked all sorts of questions that were great. And the main one was how do I put myself in the right position to keep progressing? And probably you touched on it, and it was a good point that these sort of things are great because we're all mixing in the same circles. Quite often we're separated out. It's the ringers on this side and the managers on that side, and you don't cross paths a lot socially. You're doing your workspace. So just even us being able to them about to approach us and ask some questions, but the bulk of them were just, how do I put myself in the best position to progress, and my response in the main was to them, just keep using your initiative and keep asking questions, and don't be afraid to ask people questions, because most people will be happy to answer you, and it's that having the confidence in yourself to go and do that often breaks the ice for people to then want to help you.
I think that confidence in asking questions was a big theme too throughout the day, of you not going into that head stockman role because you have to know everything. And a lot of them, that getting comfortable being uncomfortable, but comfortable being vulnerable enough to ask for help. And I think it's a credit to the type of people that were nominated to attend by the stations, with the type of questions you saw coming out, and a credit to all the stations and managers that put those young people through.
And I've had a chance to sort of get around a few of the stations since that, and I've had great feedback from the people on the station. So we sent 9 from our group, and you could see it on the night, and then you could see it in their reaction when you saw them next time, and they were just absolutely chuffed to be selected for this, you know. And if I think back to when I was that age, and we didn't experience anything like that, I would be thinking, wow, how good is this that I've been chosen to go and do this, and you know, a night in town paid for by your employer, and I know, special, you know, and it's a tiny cost on our side, but it realises their potential, makes them realise that we see their potential, but also just gives them a boost of confidence to say, wow, I can make it in this industry, and then amongst that, gleaning the knowledge out of the people that are around them and not be afraid to ask those questions was probably the main one I got. You know, how do I put myself front and centre? What do you think I should do in this space? And you know, so you can't pester your manager to death, right? Otherwise you'll do it. But just pick your moments. But don't be afraid to ask the questions. And if you come up with some good ideas, bounce them off people. You know, have the confidence to say, well, if we did this way, how would that work? You know, don't say this is how we're going to do it, because you'll probably get a strong reaction. But you know, I see a lot of it in the young kids. They're often quite what's the right word? They're hesitant to approach people because they're worried about being a pest, you know, or they're worried that am I senior enough or whatever to go up and be able to ask these questions. And I think breaking that in their mind and breaking that barrier and saying, okay, what can I learn here? At least you're then front and centre and people see you rather than not seeing you, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, and I think some of the workshop activities built on that confidence and competence building for those young people, and how they had to, I suppose, self-awareness was a big thing that I had coming out of it, with some of the questions and some of the participants really reacting to, and looking back at situations where they might not have communicated well. I think that was incredible to see such a group of energetic young people having the ability to reflect on their own behaviour and communication styles.
And you know, another one is we quite often see is people react one of two ways when they get promoted to those positions. They either don't make the jump out from being mates and it doesn't work because they can't quite make that jump, or they overreact the other way. They come in too heavy-handed, you know? It's sort of, they come in thinking that they have to be now this authoritarian person that's telling them what to do all the time and rubs all the rest of the camp up. So that's a really big step for someone that hasn't had any leadership training to take. So don't be afraid to ask your manager, how do you do it? You know, I'm getting a bad response here. What should I do? Or we you know, our managers then are watching all the time that they're making the jump on the other side. You know, you can't be the best mate and then giving them the decisions the next day. You have to take somewhat of a step back. You don't have to isolate yourself, but you have to realise that your job is now a bit different to what it was when you were just doing your bit in the camp. You know?
Yeah, incredible to watch that progression of these young people.
It's a big jump to make. It's probably the biggest jump you make, I reckon, in your leadership growth. You know, once you're past that, you're on your curve and away you go. But stepping out and having to control your friends and people similar ages to you and be responsible for what they do and responsible for their actions. You know, if your camp's running right and doing things wrong, and that's after work too, you know, and sometimes it's not even when you're at work, it's how they behave at the rodeos and all those things. Your job is to pull them into line. It's a big step to do for your peers, right? So once you're over that hump and you learn that and you can manage that, then you're pretty much away on your journey. You know?
How do you reflect on your own leadership journey in that way? Like, you've probably experienced this yourself, and
look, it's just a bit of it. It's just trial and error, you know. I've made some mistakes in the past, absolutely. You know, as long as you're making more right than wrong, you're probably okay. And people that says I don't make mistakes are normally lying to you. But yeah, it's feeling your way as to how you get the best out of people. And I've found over the years, I was probably too heavy-handed in my early years, which I think most people lean towards, you know. But as you mature in that role, you tend to get, how do I get people along for the ride, you know? And a big one is telling them why you're doing it, not just you're doing it, right? Because you tend to get in the camps like, right, we're going to go and do this today. Go and pick up that and do that, do that, do that. But if you tell people we're doing that because we want to achieve this, and this is the greater goal, sounds like a little thing, but it's a very big thing.
Absolutely. Having that purpose and why really helps drive better communication, understanding for everyone on the team. And I have been fortunate myself since the workshop to be out and see a few of the participants in action. And I think I could really see that. They've seen that they can't just say, look, grab that, put some fuel on the buggy, we're going. Yeah. They sat down, had a proper conversation with their team, with all different personalities in that 100%. Team, and they said they just got a better outcome. And I think that was probably,
for me, that was the biggest thing I had to change. And Jane would tell you, I always like to be really flexible in what we do, because it's a really flexible industry. Things change on a daily basis. As the truck gets stuck coming in, is it going to rain? As a boat going back. So what starts out as the best laid plans for the week and the month are generally getting changed by day 2 or 3, sometimes that morning. And we would change the plans, and I wasn't filling people in well enough on why we were changing the plans. And then they were getting frustrated as to what, well, we're told we're going to do this, now we're doing that. And just taking that 5 or 10 or 15 minutes on a Monday morning to set out what your week involves. And then if there's changes to that, inform people why that's happening, and then you'll find they'll come with you. If you're just telling them, we're doing that, no, sorry, now we're doing that one, and then they're not understanding why you're making those changes. I probably underestimated that a lot in my earlier days, as to keeping people informed as to why you're doing things.
Yeah, I think that's quite a powerful observation that you've lived through with a lot of life experience. You've talked a lot before in some other interviews about mentors through your life, and I think that end of the workshop that last night, and I've had a few of the participants reach out to me since then. I think it was a great chance to network and build mentors. How important has that been through your leadership journey?
Oh, absolutely huge. Yeah, and that was sort of what I wanted to talk about at that event a bit, and I spoke about it a little bit again at the dinner. Was that finding that person to take you under their wing and help you on your journey is the most critical thing that you can do in that, and they can be hard to find, but you never find them unless you make the effort to make those relationships, right? So for me, it was John Dunnicliffe, who's an amazing man, that just loved to impart knowledge, and he would tell you about the failures as much as he'd tell you about the successes, probably more about the failures if I was honest. It's like, God, I did that wrong, that was a silly thing to do, but out of that I learnt that we should do it this way, and then he had a really different way of looking at his how he'd run a business, rather than sort of a more traditional we're going to farm here and this is our farm, this is the way we've done it, and Mum and Dad have always done it. He was always looking at new ways to do things, and then he also was very entrepreneurial in trading cattle and sheep, trading properties. If he thought a property was overvalued for what he could earn from it, and he'd put the effort into developing it, he would want to sell it and then start again. So for me, coming from a background where it was you had to be a family farmer to be a farmer, to no, you don't have to do anything like that. You can be an entrepreneur effectively in this business, or you can do things that support agriculture, which are equally as important as agriculture itself. There's so many different things you can do, that if you can find someone that helps you on that journey, that's massive.
Yeah, I think I can reflect on having that influence when I started as well, and it's hugely powerful.
Yeah.
Well, I think we can safely say we both agree the Head Stockpersons Leadership Forum was a success.
Was it? Yeah, I think there was 47 or something there.
37 participants.
Yeah.
And a great event.
From a standing start, it's a pretty good effort, I reckon, the first year. And I think the feedback from it and the broader industry, I know there's some other groups that couldn't make it, that will probably make more of an effort to make it this year, hearing the feedback. And I reckon it's one of the better things we do as an organisation going forward will be great in this space. So
yeah, look forward to being part of the KPCA Leadership Forum next year, and thank you so much, Haydn, for reflecting on the day with me.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Thank you, Chad.
Right, so I'm now here with Helen Campion, who's one of the family team members that runs Anna Plain Station. And now, Helen, you are part of the KPCA Head Stockpersons Leadership Forum, and you helped run one of the panel sessions with the young people. How did you find the event and the session that you ran?
Look, I think it was fantastic. It was a dream by Lux to have the Head Stockman's leadership program take off. And it was great, and I felt very honoured that I would be asked to be on stage. And my area of expertise was to try and make the youngsters feel safe and calm whilst telling us their story of how they've moved within the industry and the availabilities of their roles, and how they were excited about being in a very incredible industry.
Yeah, I think you brought out real vulnerability through the session by probably being vulnerable yourself and calm, and each of the kind of participants on the panel shared a bit about how they got to where they are, and some of them probably said they got there by mistake, but then maybe the whole day drew out of people that they were leaders. Maybe they didn't think themselves as that, but that initiative they'd shown or support they'd been given and how they'd flowed through into that next job.
Yeah, it's interesting because you can put yourself under the pressure, and you know, when I got asked to be on the panel as a speaker, I wasn't really excited about that. And when I actually asked a few of them to join me on the panel, they weren't keen, but the ones that I did ask and who weren't keen, I did manage to actually encourage them to come, because I thought that sometimes we have obstacles in our way in our roles, and it was, let's do this. And I felt very confident talking with them, and I think it worked really well.
I love that you took your almost challenges that you find in leadership and helped, got them to help you.
That's exactly right.
I think I got asked on the panel, what advice I would give, and it was, get comfortable at being uncomfortable, which is probably what you had to do in that session. And through the rest of the event, did you have any good takeaways or questions you got from the crew?
I think that the really good thing was they were all really excited about being in the same area with the networking that was available and the different pathways that people had actually taken to get to their leadership roles. And I think that there were many experienced people that came in towards the end, and there was so much positivity in this industry that I think that really helped the leaders of tomorrow, that this is a great industry to be involved in. And yeah, onwards and upwards. I think they all went home with tails wagging and smiley faces, and I think it's great. The future is looking great in the agriculture industry.
Yeah, I agree. I think the managers kind of panel complemented yours well. Some of the same topics came up, even in, and those managers hadn't been in the room earlier. So I think that was really cool to see. Yeah,
and I think it was brilliant to show that the new leaders coming on, that there is big industry movements, and to keep abreast, to keep knowledgeable, to attend workshops, to attend all of this, industry puts on, the KPCA, the RCS groups. It's really important that they do show initiative by attending those workshops and tools, use them, because if we stop improving on things, we can't stop improving on things, and attendance is so important. So yeah, it was a great first Head Stockman's leadership program, and hopefully it will continue.
Yeah, I agree. It was a great pilot, and I'm sure we'll see more of it. And you and I today have been at another KPCA event, or an event ran in the region through RCS and others.
West Kimberley LCDC.
Yes, West Kimberley LCDC, which I know you've been a big part of. So, and we're out, and I suppose the West Kimberley on Kalyita Station, and another amazing event. And some of the young people that came to that forum are actually here today. If you can hear some background noise, they're behind us having a great networking event. And I think that was really nice to see them kind of gravitate towards each other, reflect on their learnings and challenges, come up and say hi to you and I like they knew us. I found like today's kind of reiterated again how important that networking was.
I think it's brilliant, and and one of the other things was mentorship. How important that is for the youngsters moving on through the system, and all the different roles. So that's what I'm really pleased about, having these programs in place.
Yeah. Thank you so much for catching up with me, Helen. I know you didn't want to, but we got her. I may have bribed her with some Prosecco at the Pasture and Prosecco's event, which was amazing. Maybe we should do another podcast on that. But for now, thank you so much, and I'm sure we'll do this event hopefully next year again.
We look forward to it.
Thanks, Helen. Thank you for listening to this episode of Behind the Collective and part 3 of the KPCA series, proudly sponsored by Milne Feeds. Now, this was a great collaboration with the Livestock Collective and the KPCA, and for full transparency, I also work for Milne Feeds. There was a number of other important sponsors who we'll list in the show notes. The Livestock Collective is a non-for-profit organisation. We're really focused on empowering the supply chain and providing information to the wider community. If you value what we do, please like, share, subscribe, or consider sponsoring us or sponsoring an episode yourself.